Alright, this is my first unscripted video, and I'll just say why I'm doing it. It was because I was looking at a Ron Paul video about how atrocious and fascist America and its foreign policy has become. I came across a video called Ron Paul is a Goddamn Racist. Now, it turned out to be a video by a black guy, who was voting for Ron Paul. And he's a minister, incidentally, but that's beside the point. He could be anybody. And he said why he was voting for Ron Paul, because he knows him, he can trust him, etc., etc. I checked out some of his other videos, and it's not focused on foreign policy. He talks more about domestic issues. One thing he stresses in the black community is illegitimacy. Um, that I would, agree. I mean, that's basically the biggest problem. But I want to talk about some things that whites have in common with blacks between the two races. Um, If you're interested, you might check out the Hoover Institution's interview of Charles Murray. He's a social scientist who wrote a book called Coming Apart. And he talked, basically, he didn't want to complicate the issue of class division by involving different racial demographics, because he made a more convincing argument by focusing just on non-Latino whites. And he made a very good lot of data, longitudinal surveys, large data set. He focused on the history of two different towns, and he pointed out that white people are headed in two very different directions. And he started out again. First big thing, rates of marriage have cut in half in the white underclass in the last 50 years, I guess. Since Kennedy was shot, pretty much, which was a very confusing thing for this country, from what I've gathered. I'm just 28, so. Anyway, basically, I'll tell my story to give you some perspective. I had a good education at a Montessori elementary school. I recommend Montessori to everybody. I went to Walnut Hills High School, which is a public school, but it's in the top 50 in the country. You have to take a test to get in. And, I met a lot of people there, demographic differences, and there were no uniforms or anything like that. Um, but I did start working when I was 16. I wanted to have money. And by 20, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. Since then, I've been further diagnosed with bipolar schizoaffective. And, I'd say it's basically right. I've engaged in a lot of aggressive, imprudent social deviance in my time. That's actually one of the things Charles Murray talks about. He says, well, upper middle class whites, the kids get away with fucking up because they set their lives straight again, because their parents have the resources to set them back straight. The system can't do what the parents do. I used to hate my dad because, he became my legal guardian. He sanctioned me extensively, and I did a lot of time in the psych wards. I've probably spent the better part of 2 years of my life. I'm 20 years old in psych wards. And now I'm best friends with my dad because I understand that freedom is complicated. It's not just this one thing in society that's authoritarian. I mean, and I just, anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but it's, I want to get to work and education, and then maybe I'll talk about gender issues. I don't think I ever put a whole lot of stock in education because I saw that society wasn't functioning. I mean, I actually, I mean, when I listened to the Slim Shady LP, I said, hey, this is the best hip hop album I've ever heard. Well, what is it? It's a bunch of crazy, stupid shit. And of course, it's forgotten now because that's the nature of most music today is it's here today, forgotten tomorrow. It's trash. And anyway, but it was crazy. It was out of the box, and it American culture gives the appearance that you succeed in the highest way by not giving a shit, by not doing a shit, by rebelling against everything and just saying, fuck it all. That gets a lot of attention. That's all we see is just very irreverent people who don't take tradition very seriously. And anyway, after my first recovery from bipolar, I did go to community college. I was inspired to major in biology. I went on to a university. And then a girl fell head over heels for me, and I dropped out and got a job. I talked about this in another video, but I'll tell again. I'm truncating this now. Uh, Education's a bubble. I got news for you. It's not going to last. They're trying to put on a size 6 shoe onto a size 12 foot. These job markets aren't going to diversify. They're not going to compensate for this narrowing trend in science. I take biology very seriously. And I just see most of these people are coming out of there, they're nurses. I wouldn't even want to do that because I don't want to be around a morbid environment. I'll take care of my own parents when they get seriously old, but I don't want to just be doing it for anybody. And it's like this streamlining of and this gets back to work. You know, the science is market driven. Every worker in America is being programmed to devalue personal relationships with the customer. Okay? And it's like, oh, you're behind the cash register. Here you go. Now get the fuck out of here. And this is what drove me psychotic. I worked from the time I was 15 and I worked 27 jobs. That's the official government record. And I never made a friend out of a coworker. I never made a friend with anybody who came into Walmart or wherever except for one man who was an ex-high school acquaintance who was a Walnut Hills alumni. And that was, I could have seen him on the street and gotten back in touch with him. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, it's like let's just stop it there because the black conservatives out there are saying, "Oh, get a job." It's not just you might say these guys are lazy or uneducated or fools, but you have to understand there's a desire to love there, okay? And if you don't see the fucking point in working if everything is depersonalized and there's no relationship between the person serving and the servee or whatever the fuck you want to call it. There's no relationship there. It's not traditional. That's not the natural order of things. And that's capitalist society, essentially. I mean, it just, it's modular. It's a modular man. Your job no longer defines you.